Hello, welcome to another random palm reading. I'm looking today at a very mixed palm, lots of earthy qualities and some conic features, a very mixed hand. And what's really interesting to me is the whirl on Jupiter as well as the thumb. Now, this person's overall question was regards to finances, money in later life. Will I be rich? They asked. Rarely do I ever have the question, will I be happy? And that's likely because this person being so square, so practical, rational, logical, material, they know that once they have this sort of security, then everything else will fall into place and it will bring happiness. Obviously, money doesn't, it's not the answer to everything, but it can help with a lot of things. Now, a headline that ends underneath Apollo is quite an average place for a headline to end, and it shows a very sort of materialistic nature. The hand itself is square. It's on the spatulate side as well. It's larger at the base, which adds to a person's enthusiasm and character, vibrancy of spirit. And luckily for this person, they have also very conic fingers as well, which again add to enthusiasm. Now, if these fingers were square, just like the palm itself, we'd see a very sort of overly practical, a very single-minded plodder, which this person is anyway, but someone who is so rigid and such a stickler for the rule book. Luckily the roundedness of the fingers and again the spatulate nature of the lower base, of the palm there, it provides a little bit of an edge to their character, a bit of a unique, quality. It provides this vibrancy and this extra sort of motivation. And unique actually is probably the right word because there is, as I say, this is a mixed palm. There's a lot of squareness, a lot of loyalty and truth, and a hard day's work is requires a good day's pay, and that's the sort of one of the mottos of this person. When I look at a person's palm like this, but then we've also got some elements of I'm going to do things my way. One of those elements is this kind of well-developed lower base of the palm. That's one of them that provides this. I'm going to read the rule book, but then I'm going to reinvent a little. It's not huge, but what really makes this person an independent and an individualist is the whirl seen here on Jupiter. Jupiter is the finger of ambition, ego, judgment, authority, decision making, as well as, religious sort of spirituality as well, but also the way we physically control our needs to control and dominate as well. Jupiter veers away from Saturn at the third phalanx, showing I'm going to satiate and my physical needs in private. Thank you very much. I'm quite happy, having food alone at home. Um, and and then it kind of curves. It tries to sort of bend towards Saturn from thereafter, but there's still a bit of a gap here, and it shows that this person is as well as the even length here between Apollo and Jupiter, which is really healthy, shows they've got a great understanding of their own abilities, their own worth, their own capabilities, and has a very measured approach to what's possible. So these things combined here show someone who doesn't have a need to control and dominate over others, doesn't there's nothing to benefit from that. They have their own way, their own idea of what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And likely no one is going to change their minds once their mind is made up because they also have a whirl on the thumb as well, which is remarkable. Don't see that all that often. The thumb itself is powerful, it's balanced, it's low set, and the balance is probably a good word to use. And the thumb is this is willpower and this is logic. And it's important to have a decent amount of balance between the two. One regulates the other. And when you see a thumb this powerful, this balanced, it shows someone has is very capable over their own temperament. They don't lose their temper. It's very rare. When and if they do, on the rare occasion, It's because they absolutely have to, because of the very earthy nature of this palm. It would be likely due to some massive miscarriage of justice. Now, although the Jupiter finger is a good length, especially in comparison with Apollo, it reaches past the first halfway mark of the tip of Saturn, the first phalanx of Saturn. That's a good sign. It means a good degree of self-worth, esteem, confidence. However, the lifeline and the headline are tied for a very long time, until the age of about 24, which is interesting. And this really is a sign of low confidence. It's a sign of overcautiousness. This is someone who um, thinks very carefully before they make a move. The length of the fingers as well shows us someone who is not keen to, again, act too quickly. That's not to say that they can't. The rounded fingers certainly provide a very sort of quick response physically as and when they need to. But in terms of planning, in terms of how they process information and make executive decisions, they're not someone to do this sort of thing quickly, in haste. In fact, they will not be rushed. Again, this is someone who will do things their own way, in their own time, their own space is needed to do this. And this is shown by the way Apollo, notice how there's a space here between Apollo and Saturn. They kind of want to veer away, but then when it comes to the tips, they kind of seem to feel the need here to get together a little bit. And this shows this is someone who is um, there's a need here to work as part of a team. And inherently, this isn't someone who wants to do all that much. They like to work alone, I suppose, in their desired role, probably. But in order to pay the bills, then notice how Saturn and Apollo are very sort of tied quite closely together. This is someone who has found themselves, in some sort of sense, financially stuck in a rut. Now, you could say, well, you derived that conclusion from the question, the one and only question they've asked you, um, and you wouldn't be all that wrong by that. But I'm saying the Saturn and the Apollo fingers here really show us what it means to work with others and how a person thinks and feels about that. And I find it interesting that at the tips here, both fingers kind of say, they kind of resign to the fact that this is simply a necessity. Mercury is quite happy on its own. Is there not a drastic leaning away from the rest of the fingers? As I say, this person is quite happy um, to enjoy life on their own to a large degree, although there are lots of friends. And you can see friends in palmistry by the sheer amount of vertical lines on the basal phalanges of all of the fingers. If you see in a person's palm upward strokes on the basal phalanges only, it shows the person, if anything, has a lot of friends in life. Now, the lifeline swings quite heavily outwards, down towards the center of the palm, and it reveals quite a large Venus mount. This is quite a large Venus mount, and it shows a strength of character. And the distance between the head, here's the headline, and the distance between the heart line here is quite large as well. And again, this shows quite an open person, quite a warm person, someone who's willing to uh, certainly give people a chance and invite people in. However, the very logical, rational approach to life means that if you fail this person, they won't forget it. And if you look closely here, you can see in the skin ridge patterns here a loop coming down from in between Mercury and Apollo, and the direction that this in suggests optimism, great optimism. And again, this is sort of enhanced a little bit by the strength of character, as I've mentioned before, by the rounded fingertips as well. Quite often, this is known as a loop of humor, but in my opinion, this really is much more around optimism. The angle and the direction of this particular kind of loop can often suggest, um, a way in which a person um, expresses or understands their type of humor, sarcasm. And often as well, it can point towards um, leisure. Sometimes it's known as the loop of leisure, but I don't quite see the emphasis on this, although there is some relevance here. Now, I have mentioned, earthy qualities here. I've also said this person has a mixed palm, and they really do. And this is why there's some airy sort of qualities as well. And when a person is of this sort of mixed and this, open to, giving everybody a chance, this being a sort of warm and accepting character, they have a lot of friends. They get on. They tend to get on or can get on with a lot of people. So if we look at the differences between the left and the right hand, one thing that strikes me as, there's a big change here in the sort of the way this person thinks is at the age of, well, here, I'll show you here on the left hand now. The left hand is what's internal. This is what's affecting this person on the inside. We see here the influence is coming close from the family sphere here. And you notice this line here, this faint little line making its way across the lifeline, their environment, the way they live their life, and it crosses the fate line, their path in life, their career is affected, and then it looks to affect their their headline. And when it does, the headline plunges into lunar. Now, this is telling of an incident that affected this person, affected their mental health. 35 would be roughly here on the lifeline. And you can see at this time the career line is, 35 is where the career line meets the headline. And we see that just before this time, it's very faint. It's non-existent almost. After this time, it's much stronger. Um, it might be that for a period of a few years here, there wasn't an ability to make money. After this time, we see a rising line from the headline reaching up towards uh, outer Mars, the place of planning, future structure, um, the financial fortress. This is where we're thinking about making money for the future. And about the age of sort of 37, 30, yeah, about 37 or so, we can really see a strengthening of finances. But to get back to what this incident is, it's hard to know from what the palms are telling us anyway. But you can see on the lifeline, this is where it's affected this person. You can see great stress, upheaval, a difficulty in life in general. You can see actually at 35, you can see where the fate line meets the headline. You can see a disruption here, great stress, depression, possibly. So what we have here on the fate line, and this is where we're judging the timing, is around about the age of 30. There is, an event here that's affecting all areas of the life. And you can see it's an influence from the family, and you can see coming from here. And you see the island here, and that is attached to the family ring. Um, really close inside the family ring there. And again, you've got this other incident at the age of around about 35. I don't think this incident at 35 is related to anything going on at home. It's interesting because you've got the secondary sort of fate line here, and it's around about the age of 30 that it develops. It's the sort of second career path, almost a second sort of calling, a second path in life. And as it reaches the age of 35, it sort of coincides with this initial fate line, and then you've got this island. This is not necessarily depression or um, poor mental health of some sort. It could just be stress. It could be a period of a couple of years here, a few years. That's what it looks like, of a real sort of um, strenuous mental activity. Now, looking at the fate line after the age of 35, as it reaches about the age of, I'm going to say, about now for this person, which is the age of around about 40, or approaching that. And we've got again another influence here coming from the family again, and it looks to again sort of affect all areas. And as it crosses the fate line here, it rises upwards towards the heart line. You can see an island on the heart line, and this shows a possible sort of emotional upheaval. it could also indicate something towards something physically, um, the health-wise. Career path after this time still carries on for a few years, but after the age of sort of, 44 or so, things get difficult in terms of career. And I'm wondering if this is, we're still looking at the left hand, this is what's internal here. Practically speaking, physically speaking, this, the career is looking strong on the right hand. What this is showing us is, um, so although the feelings about the career from this point onwards are actually, that they might not gain a lot of satisfaction from their work role from this time onwards, they are making money because the right hand shows us what's physical, what's practical, material. So whilst they might not be getting, a great deal of enjoyment from their job, it's paying the bills. Now, again, physically speaking, from the age of around, we can see here the lifeline. For me, what's significant about the lifeline on the right hand is its course. The path of it does change over time. Now, notice how it's not as um, deep, it's not as dark, it's not as thick until it reaches, you've got this right here, and again, you can see an influence from this is stress here. You've got something here, an event that's very stressful, again, close to the family sphere, that's affecting the environment, the way this person lives. And this occurs, it appears to occur at the age of about 41, 42, something like that, um, which is, close to what I mentioned earlier. Could well be the same event on the left hand. So anywhere between sort of 40 to 42, this can happen with this person. And it looks to me as though it's stressful, it's upheaval. But what's apparent here is that it's interesting. This influence turns sharply and rises upwards after from the lifeline, and it's almost like a secondary sort of fate line that's developing from this incident. When one door closes, sometimes another opens. And where we see the corroboration of this on the fates line is just here. Notice you've got here this um, there seems to be something from the heartline here, perhaps a potential sort of emotional obstacle, a struggle here that's looking to try to potentially affect or dampen this person's ability to make money. It doesn't work because we still see the strength here afterwards. So I'm wondering what this is exactly. Whatever this is, it's not all bad. In fact, as I've already said, a door closes sometimes in order for another to open. And notice the way that although this is, this is upheaval, there's a rising line from this. It's almost like a secondary sort of fate line, and it connects with the headline. And again, it creates a sort of triangle on the headline. This, I think, actually it's almost a sign of a strengthening of academia. Triangles in palmistry are always fortunate. They're always productive. They're strong in their structure. They've always got good roots in what they represent. It's almost like it's sort of the foundations for something greater that could begin. And the direction of this line here, again, it points towards outer Mars. All of the early um, improvements, efforts made on the lifeline, rise towards Mercury over here, place of learning, communication. All of these early plans are for the long game, and it's not until mid-20s you can see a little line here that it takes a slightly different turn. There's certainly more pursuing the direction of material wealth. But also here, the last sort of effort line here rising from the lifeline, you can see it clearly rising up towards the direction of Apollo. And I think, and this ties in with this little, uh, well, some people would call it a leisure look, this optimism, this enjoyment in life, that clearly having fun for this person is a list on their priorities. Their main question, will I be rich later in life? Will I be wealthy? Is certainly at the top of that priority, but that's only because it's a tool to enjoy life and enjoyment really, just having fun. is really at the top pretty much of this person's priorities. And that's noted by all of the things I've mentioned here. You know, the wider base of the palm, the rounded fingers. It's that combination of generally mostly earth qualities combined with these chronic uh, qualities. And conic hands, that is the sort of rounded feature here, are always people who have a love for life, a great sort of enthusiasm and passion, and just generally live for all of the pleasures of life, enjoy life. So the combination here, this earth and conic, is really someone striving towards um, all things earthy, materialism is quite important, but only for the pursuit of happiness. Whereas, a lot of earth hands, like Bill Gates, for example, the palm reading I did on him, you can see in his hands that the pursuit of material gain is more to compensate for an ego sort of complex. We don't see that here. This is completely different. So I think at around about the age of 42, there will be a slightly different path for this person that they begin to take. Their day job, it's still there. They're still certainly making money, and it's important to, have a plan B, and that's certainly one of this person's, mottos, sense and sensibility. But I do think there will be an idea to start something new, and that comes around after a particularly stressful period that's close to home. That's there's something that happens, and there's although it's awful, there's an opportunity that arises from that, and a slightly different direction is taken in life, and that's it. You can see that although this line it does come from the heart line, and we can see the direction of it because of the strength of where you know it's stronger over here, and there's a small island here. So it could be one of a few things. It could be that it is in fact, a corroboration of this event here, or it could in fact be a minor health issue that looks to affect their ability to pay the bills. In any case, the good thing about this is it does point towards the sun line. The sun line is, and if you've seen my other video on the sun line, is the Apollo line. It's or the success line. And Apollo stands for enjoyment, the arts, pleasures, creativity. It's our fun, it's our spark, it's our achievements and our talents, and it's essentially the ability to enjoy life. And so for a lot of us, that is our talents, because it's through our talents that we can make money, and it's obviously that's a tool to, for freedom and enjoy life a bit more. So even though this might be a bit of a potential blip, as I've said, it doesn't affect the ability to make money. And what it does do is, I think, it creates an opportunity. It might be a little bit of some sort of, it changes the way they feel about life. And then they decide to actually, I'm going to do this now. Yeah, I'm going to still I'm still going to go to work, but I'm going to do this now. And whatever this is, it's a sort of a hobby of some sort. It's a new priority in life. It's a new path. And although it's not that strong at the moment, it could well get a lot stronger in future. Now, after this time, and I want to get back to the lifeline because I kind of veered off here. Notice after this time, the lifeline becomes darker and thicker. Now, the lines in our palms are quite often view them as sort of a river. The lines themselves view them like rivers, or a flowing of energy, a path of energy. And when we see an obstacle like this, it obstructs that flow, and the flow needs to sort of move around this energy. And connected to this obstacle is another little rising line here. So, and you can see the life line actually overlapping. It's not a break as such, but there is an overlap. And what this shows, what I think this is I think there's a bit too much effort made, and it causes a potential health issue. There's a bit of overworking going on. There's something that occurs here, and it's likely due to a family influence of some sort. There's a need here to burn out almost, and that's what this is a possibility of. So it's around the corner for this person, and after this time, the lifeline becomes a bit dark, a bit thicker, and it's showing that the energy becomes a bit sluggish. So there's a possibility of this health issue causing um, putting on weight. Now, if I zoom out a little bit, you can kind of see it from this time onwards, things get darker, heavier, lower. That's not to say that this is going to happen, that's it, but that's the be all and end all. Because one of it's, two things. First of all, the lines do change on the palms all the time, and I've seen this happen myself. This person could well come back to me in a year or so, and I'll compare these images, and there will be massive differences. If we make differences now to ourselves in our own lives and the way we live our lives in the present, then the future can and will change, and this will be represented in the palms. The other reason why I mentioned that this is not dead set, this is not set in stone, is because this person's career path, their fate line, their career line, is not um, sort of cutting the palm in two. It's not, when we see that happen, when the palm almost looks divided by a vertical line running up to center, or a powerful fates line that seems to be, um, it's a lot less likely to change. Whereas when we see one that's a lot more faint, then they are much more in control of their own circumstances. Now, to answer the overall question, a question that they first asked me, and I've been babbling on about lots of things here. After the age of 53, they will become a lot wealthier, a lot more comfortable. I'm not going to say rich, but I do think they will be very comfortable. Um, and you can see that the sun line here, it really grows after the age of 53. There are two sun lines for a little while. In particular, there will be one income from the age of around about, even before this age, late 40s, and it'll really start to develop, or really grow. And there's probably strength from those close to home, family, perhaps a partner. And it's strengthened by the union of a community, at least, friends or there's support there from the domestic sphere anyway. And that's not, whatever this income is, this isn't what will make them comfortable. It's this secondary income that seems to sort of come from nowhere. This potential health, obstacle here does seem to, it looks like it's sort of pointing towards it. I know it's coming from the heart line, but this does look like a bit of a coincidence that's too good to be true. So I'm wondering if this secondary path here is this, and then this overall incredible sunline here we see on the right hand, we don't see on the left, which shows us their feelings, their own personal feelings about where they will be in future, their potential for earning money in future isn't actually as strong as it will be in future. They will be quite well off. They don't feel that way, but they will be comfortable. Two incomes for a little while, and then from the age of around about 60 onwards, you know, they're really in a very excellent position financially, and I think they likely rent out property. Perhaps they pay off their mortgage by the time, and they can really begin to sort of put their feet up a lot more. And it's not to say that they will quit work, because they won't until likely retirement age, and I think that's probably their choice. What's really nice about this sun line is that it actually begins to fork at the end. And it's like a tree. And you can see here there's roots beginning here to grow. This is the beginnings of an ideal sun line. And so their question, will I be rich? Well, at the moment, this person's certainly going to be comfortable at the very least. They keep going the direction they're going, they will be comfortable. And I imagine that in a few years, this sun line will strengthen out into something really quite remarkable. The other thing I've noticed here is the Good Samaritan lines. This is really um, a sign that you'll see on the hands of healers, doctors, people who are in an industry where they care, literally carers, support workers, social workers, nurses will have this, counselors even, um, you know, therapists, that sort of thing. You also see it on the hands of parents or just people who are well-meaning. You see it on the hands of people who care. The heart line, it doesn't, um, sort of, it doesn't appear all that long on the right hand. It does seem to sort of want to stop underneath Saturn at the edge here. However, if you look at the left hand, you'll see that the heart line, it does branch up towards in between Jupiter and Saturn, and then it branches off as well into Jupiter. So although the curve of the heart line as well, it's a good arc as well. It creates a strong enough bow to create, a good capacity to care for others. A heart line branching off into Jupiter shows idealism. I've just noticed here on Luna, right at the base, right at the edge of Luna here, we've got a loop, or a memory loop. And this shows, and you can see the headline actually dipping towards just past it, but it is certainly someone with a superb long-term memory. There's strong loyalty lines as well. Here's classic feature of an earth hand. And there's strong feelings as well towards this person's mother. This loyalty's tied in with this as well. You can see a line here rising from inner Mars. I mean, I would say that this is the family sphere, the way it looks like it's sort of creeping around in it and towards the thumb here. And it rises up, hits the lifeline, where you can see an island here on the lifeline. And this is at the age of about 16, perhaps 17. And this could be the loss of a family member. I'm sort of all over the place with this palm reading, sorry. If we look at the Mercury lines here, you can see that this is being the left hand, this is internal now. There's a slight sort of doubling and overlapping of the Mercury line in exactly the place where you'd expect to see digestion. Now, looking at the right hand, we don't quite see the same sort of overlapping and marking in that corresponding area. And this, for me, shows me that dress, uh, because the left hand's internal, really affects their digestive abilities. Will this person be wealthy? They will be very comfortable, but not without hard work. It certainly is going to happen for this person. They'll enjoy many years of living comfortably. And also, at the age of 65 or so, I'm going to say, there appears to be some long distance travel. So I think they're really going to enjoy comfortably what it's like to explore the world. So that's it for this palm reading. Let me know what your thoughts are on this reading. Sorry, I was a bit all over the place with this one. I had to stop and start a few times throughout this for various reasons. So let me know what you got from this. Perhaps you picked up on something I didn't mention. Um, Perhaps you didn't understand something. Perhaps you gained something from this and you learned. And I'm always happy to read comments and try to answer any questions. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.